I'm John Crossman, and welcome to What Does a Video Cost? In this segment, we're going to talk about pre-production, and this is kind of a summary of, we've talked about scope and subject, we've talked about scripting and location, and we've talked about talent and crew. One affects the other, but really it starts with the scope. And so one of the first things I said is the scope is really related to how much do you want to pay. In this brief video, we're going to talk specifically about the budget. The budget is directly related to the scope, which filters down to all the various parts. Are you going to have a script writer? Are you going to, have more than a one-man crew? What kind of equipment is going to be needed? And then, how are we approaching this? Is it going to be fully narrated, or is it going to be some on-camera interviews with experts in the various subjects that you're covering? Or is it going to, are you going to have an on-camera spokesperson or some combination of above? All that, ends up with a budget. I said in the first segment that generally $1,000 per finished minute is where most video productions start. Of course, that is the same crew that it would take to do a 3-minute video is probably the same people and the same costs as it would take to make a 10-minute video or a 12-minute video. The difference might be additional locations, which would add to the cost. If there is an on-camera talent, then, and you can't get all of that shot in one place in one day, then that is going to add to your budget. There really is nothing I'm talking about that subtracts from the budget other than while that $1,000 a finished minute is a good way to start, it'll go up or go down based on all these other things. And that's why it's important to take the time in pre-production. It's even better if you're willing to pay a little bit of money to get the person that you want, like myself, video professional, involved in the pre-production, because you can do all your pre-production assuming that it's going to be narrated, or assuming that you can use your brochure for your script. And if you're doing all that work and then you hire a video professional, you're either going to have to redo a chunk of that work, or you're going to have to pay a lot more than what you thought it would cost, as you're trying to now hit a budget number without having the right information that you needed when you were planning it. So in order to get a good idea of your budget, it really is a good idea to pay someone for a day, or once you've kind of done your preliminary work, to reach out to either someone that you are planning on hiring, or someone that you've hired in the past, or someone that has some experience in this, and they can look through your pre-production and go, yeah, you're talking about an $8,000 shoot and whatnot, or a $4,000 or a $40,000 shoot. All of those things impact, because the things that you can't get captured in your production, which is the next step, which you've planned for in pre-production, that falls now into post-production of how do you make it work. And the more things you have to figure out, well, how is it going to work in post-production, the numbers start to go geometric on you. Just as your on-camera talent should be budgeted in the fact that they have the script ahead of time and they're able to become familiar with it, so that really when you get to production, they're just giving you a couple of different interpretations of how they think it could be read. If they don't see the script till the day they show up and you're ready to shoot, everybody's waiting for them to get ready. Now, you can use a teleprompter, many people do, for on-camera talent, but if your camera's moving, or if you want the camera to move while the person's talking, then that becomes very problematic, because the farther away they are from the camera, the harder it is to read the teleprompter. And the teleprompter, even modern small ones that go on small cameras, are still too much weight and everything else to haul around like you would just a camera. And so if the production doesn't go well and they go, well, we can cover this with a graphic in post, yes, you can. But had you planned to spend for someone to create a graphic in post? A graphic in post can be very simple and look nice for, 20 minutes worth of time. Or if, something gets pushed into post-production that's complex, it can take a whole day. I'm going to show you this shot that's animating on now. That took 10 hours to create, and I didn't even draw the drawing. I simply bought the drawing, which costs money, but not a great deal of money, an ink drawing of this little village, and then I had to go back through and reveal each line as if it was being drawn on. Makes it very visually interesting and keeps your attention while you're listening to what the narrator is saying. But you look at that and you'd never guess that took 10 hours to make that graphic. It goes by in 20 seconds. So these are things you can talk about in pre-production if it has to do with, if you're dealing with somebody like myself that would shoot and edit it, or if you're not. This particular example that I'm showing you was a complex project that ended up being all stock footage and graphics that I created using various things. Some are in 3D, some are in 2D. And some of the most complex graphics took 10 minutes. And some of the simplest graphics, like this little village, took all day. So you can't just look at something and know without having the experience of how long that will take to do in that certain way. So that's where the rubber hits the road, really, in a budget. You're probably paying about $500 a day for each person on the crew. You're probably paying between $400 and $800 a day for the equipment package that you'll be using, depending on how many lights and how complex the sound has to be. A weekly trip, so that was usually a day of travel, 3 days of production, and if it was close enough, we'd travel home at the end of the third day. If it wasn't, we'd travel on the fourth day. We were basically budgeting about $10,000 in cost to get a shoot like that done. So those are the kind of ranges you're talking about. If you don't have that kind of money, then you need to make the scope smaller. If money is an object, then you just have to be smart about which one of these pieces and how elaborate the scope has to be to really effectively tell the message. And that's another way that a seasoned professional can help you. So that's the end of this little row of pre-production videos. Next we'll go into in-depth in production and talk about many of the same things again. How location affects cameras and how the crew can affect production. While you might be paying for more people, in theory you should be able to get more done, things like that. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line at the bottom of the page. And if I get enough questions about a certain subject, I'll address it in the video. If not, I'll do my best to try to get back to you as soon as I can with your specific question. My name is John Crossman, and this is What Does a Video Cost? And thanks for watching.